So Rabbi Sai, we are on our seventh year about brain death. We haven't really spoken about the subject yet, but we're getting closer. We are definitely moving in the right direction. We just need a little more background, a little more.
Just an hour.
And maybe today we'll actually start to touching on the actual sugya itself.
We all brain dead, Rabbi.
This all started, as if you recall, we have to review the famous shaila that caused a whole uproar in the late 1600s, early 1700s. The shaila that Chacham Tzvi brings down that a girl, they shechted a chicken, they opened up the chicken, and lo and behold, the girl didn't find the heart. So if you remember, she opened up the chicken, and there was a cat right next to the table, waiting for the discarded parts. And the girl started throwing some parts, but then she saw that there was absolutely no heart, and she got into a shock that there was a chicken without a heart. And the chicken was totally healthy. The chicken was, like it brings here, was from the best chickens around, totally robust. Echem Tarnagoyes Tovas the Brius, from the healthiest and hale, but there was no heart. So the girl is working for the head of the house, the matron of the house. They both run into the Beit Medrash. The Chacham Tzvi. The Chacham Tzvi students are like, hey, that's an open Shulchan Aruch, black and white. An open Shulchan Aruch says, if a chicken don't have an heart, it's a treifa. What does a treifa mean? Even though you did a shechita on it, it's still not a kosher animal because it was sickly. Basically, it's like a sick animal, and it's a lot of the Torah to eat a treifa. Open and shut case, animal treifa, right? No heart, treifa. Right? Not to be confused. What's nevela? Nevela is an animal you didn't do a shechita at all. Treifa is that you did the shechita. It's just that like we said, it was a sick animal, right? What would be nafkamina? A nevela is tummy. A treifa is not tummy. And there are other nafkaminas. Okay? So that was it. Open shut case. You figured this created such a upheaval that you wouldn't believe. So first of all, the Chacham Tzvi comes back. The Chacham Tzvi comes back to Beit Medrash. He wasn't there. And the student said, Chacham Tzvi, so what was on the docket today? What happened today? Chacham Tzvi's been a slow day at the office. A girl walked in without a chicken, without a heart, so, it was pretty easy. No heart, treifa. And the Chacham Tzvi basically says, you're a bunch of imbeciles. What are you, stupid? Didn't you go to, 6th grade biology? Didn't you go to biology? You can't live without a heart. He really laid it in onto them. Don't you have a brain in your head? Do you actually think that a healthy chicken was running around without a heart? It's impossible. It's just impossible. Right? It must have been that the heart was eaten by the cat. So the Talmud said, no, but the girl said that there was no heart. So the Chacham Tzvi said, you can't live without a heart. An impossibility. Impossible. So the boys say, what do you mean? But the Shulchan Aruch talks about a case with a chicken without a heart. So the Chacham said, no, you know what you're talking about. You're talking about a chicken that's right before you shecht it looks like its mom is dead. So then maybe somehow or other the heart deteriorated right before it died. But that's only when the chicken is really, really sick, and even then he says it's almost an impossibility. Or it's talking about you ripped out the heart. Someone right before he shechted it, ripped out the heart, and then he shechted it. So actually the chicken was technically alive still. It was still bouncing around, and then he shechted it. That's what the Shulchan Aruch is talking about. That you can't eat that chicken. But if you have a totally healthy chicken, robust and flying and everything, and all of a sudden you're presented with a situation that it's out of heart. Impossible. Okay? Impossible. And then as we recall, we brought a Zohar. We brought a Zohar that says the same thing. The source of life is the heart. You can't live a second without a heart. Fine. Agav, those of us who in a Rabbi Klugsman's year that we are, I don't know if anyone's here, that we are learning, they're learning the first parak clandestinely So then he gets all involved about Eidech and Bisurin, meaning how do you know you believe the girl? The girl didn't own the chicken. How do you know believe her? Maybe you shouldn't believe her. Maybe she's lying. So those are the sugis you're learning in the morning, but Eidech and Bisurin, Biyadai, and we'll leave that there. Fine, great, wonderful. Now, seems like a very simple, regular day in the yeshiva. A Talmidah made a mistake. The rabbi set them straight. Back, right, okay. Then all of a sudden, we go at the next tshuva, and we see that the Chacham Tzvi wrote a letter to his mechutin, Naftali Katz, right? And we're going to go through the tshuva a little bit, but you get the feeling that the Chacham Tzvi is trying to find support for his psak din. He's looking for outside help. So he writes a letter to the Naftali Katz. Naftali Katz is the Av Bezdin then of Frankfurt, and he wants his support about this psak din. So you already see that there's something going on here, that it wasn't such a simple thing. Now, who was the Naftali Katz? So a little bit back on the Naftali Katz. Like I said, he was the mechutin of the Chacham Tzvi. I think he's mechutin twice over because the Chacham Tzvi's son married Naftali Katz's daughter, and that granddaughter married the Yavitz. So basically, the Reb Emden's was married to his niece. So twice over, Naftali Katz was a mechutin with Naftali Katz. Actually, if you read Reb Emden's autobiography, he compares his three wives. He's married 3 times, and he basically compares them. He says which ones were good and which ones were not so good. That's why this is a very controversial autobiography. Like I said, it's not your regular art scroll autobiography. You want to look it up? It's called Megillah Sefer, very famous autobiography by Rabbi Yaakov Emden. Beat it to me. So, great. So a little bit of point of interest. Naftali Katz was like one of the Gdolei Hador. He was part of the Vad Artzis. He was part of the Vad of Arba Artzis, like the good of our days. It's like the chief coalition of the main rabbis of the era. And what happened was, he was also a very big Mekubal. He has a famous sefer called Smichas Chachamim. Very famous sefer. What is Smichas Chachamim about? He connects all the tractates, all the Masechtas. He connects each one of them, the last page with the first page of the next tractate, to Kabbalah and Pshat. So basically, he explains why each Masechta follows each other, but with great ingenuity, he uses Kabbalah and he uses Pshat and Halacha to explain why everything is connected. Very famous sefer called Smichas Chachamim. Fine. Great. Now, what happened was, Naftali Katz had a little bit of a tragic life, even though he's, like I said, he's like a Gadol Hador. First of all, he was in captivity for a couple of years. The Tartars captured him, and for a couple of years he was in captivity. But the biggest tragedy that happened in his life was, in 1711, he was the Av Bezdin of Frankfurt, and there was a major fire that started in his house, and it burned down the whole entire Jewish quarter. 500 houses got destroyed. A lot of the markets got destroyed. People got killed. It says 8 people got killed. 36 Sifrei Torah were burned, and they blamed him. They blamed Naftali Katz for this fire. Why would they blame Naftali Katz for his fire? Because Naftali Katz, like I said, was a big Mekubal, and he also was into the practical Kabbalah. And one of his bestsellers was an amulet against fires. He had an amulet against fires. What was this amulet? It was a deer's head that had God's name, many different names of God in this deer's head. And supposedly, this was supposed to stop fires, protect fires. Because in the good old days, everything was made out of wood. If one house went down, all the houses went down. Okay? Now, this deer's head was actually, if you go to Rabbi Akiva Eger's house, who was the chief rabbi of Posen, you go to his house, you go to Rabbi Akiva Eger's house, right? You walk in, there's a fireplace. On top of the fireplace, there's a deer's head, a taxidermy deer's head. Right? You figure that Rabbi Akiva Eiger was a big hunter. And used deer's head, and it was well known. Rabbi Akiva Eiger himself said, this deer's head I got from the last rabbi of Posen, because before Naftali Katz was a rabbi in Frankfurt, his first position was in Posen. And over there, he had this deer's head to stop fires. And Rabbi Akiva Eiger is made. There was never a fire in Posen after this deer head was put into place. Never. It was something of a great phenomenon. Great. So he's got this amulet with the deer's head. Now, we're going to see soon, deer's head doesn't sound too good. It sounds a lot like Shapsai Tzvi, right? We're going to get involved in that a little bit later, right? Deer's head, what? Tzvi, Shapsai Tzvi. So, again, in those days, everyone was suspect. But of course, it could be the deer's head. His name was Naftali Katz. And we know that the pasuk says that what is Naftali like compared to a Tzvi, right? The open pasuk in the Chumash. Tzvi Shlucha. It says that Naftali was like a runner. You know their story. Asa was fighting so that he should be buried in Marzach Pela. They said, Naftali, you're the quickest guy. Go run to Mitzrayim and bring the Shtar Mechir. Bring the proof, the deed that Yaakov Avinu brought to Marzach Pela, that he has the right to Marzach Pela. Right? It's open pasuk in the Chumash, right? I mean, not to start about him running to Mitzrayim, but that he's called a Tzvi. So be the name. So you got the deer's head, the firewall, the fireproof deer's head. Now,
What did the amulet have to do with the head?
what?
What did the amulet have to do with
The head was the amulet.
the head? Was an amulet.
It was not stuffed with I don't know what they stuff deer heads in nowadays. I guess it was like rags. It was stuffed with names of God's names, kamiyas. In the deer's head, Rabbi Akiva Eiger said he himself took out and read all the kamiyas and put them back in. Right? Okay. So you got the deer. Now the problem was this is great. This is great. You don't need a fire. You don't need a fire department anymore. You got the deer's head. All is wonderful. Again, we said Naftali Katz was very big into practical Kabbalah. The problem was in 1711, he left Posen. He left that deer's head in Posen. He left it there. That's why Rabbi Akiva Eiger had it. Rabbi Akiva Eiger lived, let's say, 60 years after him, basically. He was born 60 years after he died. But he was, okay. So, in Frankfurt, Posen, there was a huge fire. Destroyed the place. And the authority, and it came out of his house. It came out of the house of Naftali Katz. And the authorities arrested him because there were rumors, all different types of rumors. One rumor was Naftali Katz was trying to test out his amulets. Let's see how good this deer's head actually works. And it didn't work too well that time. Others say that he didn't actually start the fire, but when the neighbors wanted to call the fire department, he said, "No, don't worry about it. It's under control. It's under control. I got my amulet." And it wasn't under control. It wasn't under control. There are other rumors that the Christians made up that he was burning crosses and cheese and crackers. Got upset at Naftali Katz that he's burning the Shesi Erev, and that's why it happened. The rumors were going a million rumors, but it all stemmed from the fact that they knew that Naftali Katz had this thing with fire. He wasn't a pyromaniac, on the contrary, but he had these dealings, and he had these amulets, and they threw him in jail. The authorities. They had a court case, and what came to in the court case, what came out to be was that the fire did start in his house, but he had a big house, and he sublet the rooms to Gentiles, some of his rooms, and there was a Gentile who started the fire. They figured out at the end of the Gentile started the fire, and they said, "You know what? We'll let you off the hook, but we're throwing you out of town. You can't be rabbi here in Frankfurt anymore. You can't be rabbi here in Frankfurt." And they basically took all his money, and they threw him out of town. Right? So you could say, this is speculation. Let's say maybe the amulet works only if the Jew starts the fire. Maybe if the guy starts the fire, it doesn't work. I don't know. But he lost his position. But not only lost his position, some of the Jews, you have to understand, a lot of people died. A lot of people lost everything. If you lose 500 houses, you're talking about a couple thousand people don't have a place to live anymore. So, wasn't his fault. Everyone was angry at him. And until this day, if you ever read about people who are talking about against Kabbalah, this deer's head is always mentioned. They say, look how bad it's for Kabbalah. Look at that was the deer heads. Because the deer head, there was this great fire. You can't use practical halacha. And no one knows exactly what really happened over there. But one thing is for sure, there is a deer's head. You go to Akiva Eiger's house. He's probably not home right now. But if you go to Akiva Eiger's house, you will. That deer head was there. But again, that was a deer head in Posen. he probably made another one in Frankfurt that didn't seem to work. Whatever it is. Okay, this is a famous history. Again, and everyone knows about this deer because, like I said, whenever they talk about Kabbalah, against Kabbalah, they always bring up the story about the deer head. How it doesn't always work, and it's not a good thing, because look, even the great Kabbalist, Naphtali Katz, it didn't work for him. Even for him, it didn't work. Again, it's all speculation. The stories are true. What exactly happened, no one exactly actually knows. Here's the make. So he's thrown out of town. He basically gets like a job in yeshiva, working in Prague for David Oppenheim. So he tried to get rabbinic positions. This is like the Gadol Dor, but no one wanted to hire him. No one wanted to hire him. So he got a job like in yeshiva. Maybe show him with David Oppenheim's yeshiva. We will talk about David Oppenheim pretty soon. Okay, this is Naphtali Katz, who lived 1648 to 1719. So, like I said, the Chacham Tzvi writes to Naphtali Katz and says, you know, what do you think about this chicken without the heart? So here we go. Ooh, I forgot to come on Kedushin.
Before he lost his respect or after he lost his respect?
No, before. This is before. In 1711 the fire was, and this was like 2 years before that. So this is before that, actually. He says, he writes back to the Chacham Tzvi, you should know, the same story happened to me a while ago, and I said exactly like you, that there's no way this chicken doesn't have a heart. Where's the heart? Something must have happened. It cannot be that the chicken didn't have a heart. Why can't we find it? Something must have happened. The cat ate it, something happened. Right? And I told my Bnei Bias, he had a very illustrious family, Naphtali Katz. The Kleisa Choshen is his grand from his progeny, but he had like many kids. I looked it up. Every one of his kids like an Av Bezin. Every one of them. It was pretty amazing. Anyway, so basically he told the family you could eat it, and Bnei Basi said no, we don't want to eat it. We don't trust you, Dad. They would have trusted Dad because they knew it was an open Shulchan Aruch, and he's saying the Shulchan Aruch is talking about these wacky cases, not an all. But if you just find a healthy chicken without a heart, it can't be. But I told everyone whenever this came in front of me as Shaila, I would tell everyone they could eat it. Fine. And then your letter came, and your letter was sitting on my desk. And I was like, I want to write something savvy. I just don't want to say, I think you're right. He didn't want to say, I think you're right. He says, and let me tell you what happened. Anes. He said, it happened to me exactly like the story we had in Kedushin of Daf Ayin. What's the story of Kedushin Daf Ayin? I'm sure you'll remember the whole story. I'm not going to go through the whole story. But basically, one guy called someone else a mamzer or an eved. And Rav Masna says, you calling him an eved? You're an eved. Because whenever you make fun of someone else, you deprecate someone else, we could assume that you have that problem. And he said, what did the guy say? What do you mean I'm an eved? I come from the Chashmonayim. Right? I come from the Chashmonayim. And Rav said, you see, the Chashmonayim were at the all avodim because they were taken over by who? Hortus. They were taken over by Hortus. That was the story, right? So basically, the guy said, "What are you talking about, Hortus? I'm from the Chashmonayim." And he said, "No." Rav Masna said, "No." I think it was Shmuel who said that anyone who comes from the Chashmonayim are really from Hortus. And they said to Rav Masna, "Do you have any proof for this?" He said, I heard from Shmuel. Well, we didn't hear this before. All of a sudden, someone comes to Shmuel's town, or Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda comes to town. After 14 years not being there, punk that day comes to town. And they say, oh my gosh, what a coincidence. Tell me, did Shmuel ever say about the Chashmonayim thing? He said, yeah, of course he said it. Of course he said it. That was the story in Kedushin. The famous story in Kedushin of Ayin, right? A little Hanukkah there, Chashmonayim and Hortus. The beat of the make. So he said the same thing happened to me. What did the same thing happen to me? This letter was sitting on my desk, and I was thinking what to answer you, and something happened, a coincidence that happened, very similar to what happened in Kedushin. What happened? He says, I'm reading it inside basically, and that day the letter came, a day or two later, two great Dayanim came to visit me. And these two Dayanim came to visit me about a certain case. Not related to the chicken case. Now, for the last 5 years, these Dayanim never ever came to my house. They were very, very big time. They never needed my help for anything. It punked to happen to me. They came to my house to discuss a certain din Torah. And who are they? Ha'alufim, Rabbi Wolf Levi, and Rabbi Zussman, Dayan, Loinim, and Falogim. Right? So we discussed that case. And then I was like thinking, these two big rabbis are right here in front of me. He says, Rabbi Katz says, I never really ask anyone for their opinion. It's very rare for me to ever ask anyone for their opinion. Because like I said, Rabbi Katz was a Gadol Dar. I said, you know what? Let me ask these two. They're right here anyway. The young are here. And he said, what do you think about a chicken without the heart? He says, I don't think it should be kosher. What do you guys think? They agreed. And then all of a sudden, someone says, one of the young say, wait 1 minute. The Dayan Rav Wolf Levi says, I have an old Shulchan Aruch in my house. Ready, right? We're talking about the beginning of the 1700s. And I remember that there's something written in the gloss on the side. There's something written in the gloss about this issue. Exactly about this issue. An old manuscript, old Shulchan Aruch I have in the house. So Rav Tali Katz said, let's go right now. Let's go to your house. Let's see what it says over there. Right? So they go to this Dayan's house, and they open up this old Shulchan Aruch. And sure enough, on the sif in the Shulchan Aruch, I talk about animals out of heart. He said like this. On the gloss it says, there's a footnote, a story happened in the days of the Maral Prague, that they didn't find the chicken with a heart. And they came to the Maral Prague, and the Maral Prague says the chicken is for sure kosher, because it's impossible that there's a chicken without a heart. It must have been there with a heart there and you lost it. It must be. I don't care if you didn't find it. It was there. So, and this is an old manuscript, and says that Tali Katz, when I read this, the house was filled with a brilliant light. He's talking figuratively. I was so happy. Sisu b'nei Mayai Sisui. Why? Because Tali Katz is who? The great-great-grandson of Maral Prague. How do you know that he's a great-great-grandson of Maral Prague? Remember, maybe a year and a half ago I gave a shiur about the Maral Prague, supposedly the Goyim book.
Gave him vacation.
Right, the Goyim book. Right, gave him vacation. Yes, almost a year and a half. Yeah. So what do we say? There's a book about the Goyim. We're not too sure who wrote it or not. It was probably a forgery. But it said on the cover who wrote it? Rabbi Yitzchak Katz. Yeah. Rabbi Yitzchak Katz is the son of the Maral Prague. Naftali Katz is his great-great-grandson. So instead of Naftali Katz, I can't believe it. My own granddad dealt with this problem, and my own granddad, the Maral, said it's mutter. He said he hasn't been happy for the simcha that he felt, he felt that God was guiding his life. Because here he is. That's how he referred to the Gemara Kedushin. Right? There was a story, and all of a sudden, after 14 years, the rabbi who could corroborate the halacha came just into town that day. But the same exact thing happened over here. There's a story. He has this letter on the desk, and he wants to know what to answer back to the Chacham Tzvi. And basically, he's trying. All of a sudden, these Dayanim come out of nowhere. They never used to visit him. All of a sudden, he asks them their opinion. He never asked anyone their opinion, basically. And all of a sudden, this Shulchan Aruch shows up with the Maral Prague, his grandfather, exactly talking about this. He said, if we didn't believe in God, now we're starting to believe. Now we're believing, right? And therefore, he said, there's no question, and it's wonderful, and now I can write you back, and he copied over basically what the Maral wrote down. Gewaldig. Great. That's the story with the Maral and Tali Katz, right? Now, but if you look at the language here, he has a very scathing language. He's going to town. And those people who just don't really care about the truth, those Lamdanim, those great learners, but they don't really care about the truth. They're just trying to make problems and made their faces turn black, and they always try to take greatness for themselves, and they try to hog all the covet, and they're a bunch of fools, and their covet won't last forever, and it's going to be taken away, and you're like, You're like reading, like, what is going on over here? A simple question about a chicken without a heart. You know. Yeah, no. It goes on, cursing people out. And you don't know who these people are. You don't know who he's cursing out over there. He's dishonest lamdunim, dishonest rabbis. And also, we see that the Chacham Tzvi is looking for support. The answer is because there's a backstory here. What's the backstory? The backstory is like this. One of the most important communities in Germany, we said it was what? The street communities. Which was Eva, right? Eva L'Moishavlai. Eva actually means the davening, the Beit HaMikdash, or the designated place, or desired place. But really over here it's an acronym. Alplona, Hamburg, and Wandsbek, something like that. It's till this day. You go to Germany, these are places. Hamburg, Altona, and Wandsbek, I think they call it. And they have one like this. The Chacham Tzvi. Right? We're talking about Chacham Tzvi. You have to keep. We're talking about the father of Yaakov Emden. We're not talking about Rabbi Eibschitz yet. We're talking about the Chacham Tzvi. The Chacham Tzvi was in the running to become the rabbi. Why was the Chacham Tzvi when the rabbi become the rabbi in this very prestigious community? I'll tell you why. Because his father-in-law was the rabbi. And when the father-in-law dies, either the son takes over or a son-in-law. Who is his father-in-law? Reb Meshulam Zalman Mirils Niemark. That's the name. Meshulam Zalman Mirilis, probably. Mirilis Niemark, or Newmark. And in 1706, sadly enough, he died. Now, who knows, for an extra credit, where is this Reb Meshulam Zalman Mirilis Niemark mentioned in the Mishnah Berurah? He's actually mentioned in the Mishnah Berurah. This great rabbi. What? In the Tefillah, right? Because over there, again, of course, he's obviously a big tzaddik. Also, we've been talking about him. So he brings here a famous halacha. It says here, you better go to shul. It's a good thing to daven with the minyan. You should try to daven with the minyan. And right, we're not going to even share about this right now. The Lashon is very, you should try to daven in the shul. Sounds like if you don't go to the minyan, it's not so bad. Right? It's not for now. Is it a chiv? Is it not a chiv? But brings the Mishnah Berurah like this. Mishnah says, but if he's an honest, no, if you're an honest, you can't go to shul. At least try to daven at the same time that the Sibur is davening. Right? So Mishnah Berurah says, what does it mean honest? Honest can mean that you're going to have a loss of money. If you're going to lose money, you don't got to go to shul. But if it's a question of gaining money, meaning not you're going to lose money, that's not going to profit money, right? It's called revach. Then you must go to shul. V'chein kosiv b'shev Yaakov Hayid. He testified on the Hagoyin Marenu Zalman Mirilis Niemark. Sounds familiar? Sounds familiar? Bezin Tequila's Kodesh Hamburg. So this is what we're talking about here. That one time he was about to go to shul, and a person came to him and said, "Rabbi, I'm going to sell you these diamonds for cheap, a great deal." And the rabbi said, "I know a good deal when I see it, but I'm going to shul now. Come to me after shul." And in the interim, he sold it to someone else who didn't go to shul, obviously, and he lost thousands of dollars or thousands of millions of dollars, whatever. And he was so happy. Rabbi Meshulam Zalman was so happy that he concretized or manifestly threw out lots of money in order to go to shul. So it made him very happy that he was able to show God or show himself, show the world. He's willing to throw out much money in order to go to shul. Okay? Then he says there people don't go to shul, we should give them a knas. That's not for now. So he's mentioned in the Mishnah Berurah. So there you go. So Rabbi Meshulam Mirilis Niemark died in 1706. And who's supposed to take over? His son-in-law. Who's his son-in-law? The Chacham Tzvi. Great. Chacham Tzvi's got good credentials. He's got a good resume, right? Now, actually, Rabbi actually was his second. This was his second marriage. The Chacham Tzvi's first wife got killed in a terrorist attack. The Chacham Tzvi's first wife got killed by a bomb, by an Austrian bomb. So this is actually a second wife, but doesn't make a difference. He was the son-in-law then of Mishulem Zalman, and so Chacham Tzvi will take over. Great, but what happened was there was a very rich family who was basically running the town, and he wanted someone else to be the rabbi. He wanted Rabbi Moshe Ziskin of Rothenburg to be the rabbi. He was also a big Talmid Chacham. And basically, out of the three towns, Altona was the biggest one. And the whole huge fight in Altona, who should be the rabbi? Because everyone else, Chacham Tzvi said, it's mine, it's my father-in-law. And the rich people, there was a rich family there that wanted this relative to be the rabbi. So what happened? No. This is not the Maram in Rothenburg. It says the Maram in Rothenburg is a mayor in Rothenburg, which is a Rishon, which, by the way, is a... We use him in the study about how much money do you use to spend to redeem hostages, right? Because the Rishon, the mayor in Rothenburg, was taken into captivity, and he refused. He told his community, no matter what, don't spend money to get me out of my captivity, and he died in captivity. At the end, they spent a lot of money just to get his body out. Now, this is like when everyone talks about what we're dealing with now, exchanging hostages for money or whatever, for terrorists. This is the first place you go to. I think Gemara and Gittin about it, but that's not how we're talking about here. We're talking about hundreds of years later. He lived in the 1100s. It's talking about Rav Moshe Ziskin, Rothenburg, and after a lot of fighting, Jews are good at, they decided to make a rotation. Half a year the Chacham Tzvi is going to be the rabbi of the three communities of Altona we're really talking about, and half a year Moshe Ziskin Rothenburg, right? Is this a good idea? No, this is not a good. You know this is not going to work. I mean, you know this is not going to work, right? Really, a rotation. But be as it may, so what happened? The Chacham Tzvi makes this psak din. Seems pretty harmless. Yeah, you can't have a chicken without a heart. Where Moshe Rothenburg found a chance to pounce on him. What the psak din? You go get the Shulchan Aruch. You go get the open Shulchan Aruch. You're thinking Shulchan Aruch is talking about a very outside type of case. And Rosh Hashanah wrote a big tshuva, big Talmid Chacham. He wrote a big tshuva against the Chacham Tzvi. Push comes to shove, the Chacham Tzvi started feeling the heat. I'm being attacked. By who? by my competition over here. The other half of the rabbi's other half. So he has to go to Rav Katz to get the support. So that's why Rav Katz is using all this language. What does Katz say? Those dishonest, lamdanim, and because Rav Katz is intimating that the only reason why they're fighting with the Chacham Tzvi is for political reasons. That they want the Chacham Tzvi to look bad, because they wanted him out of the job. Because he anyway got the job through force or whatever. It was a whole commotion how he got the job. That's why he has all this language. Their panim katanu kiraim, their faces should turn black like a kiln, like a oven. Anyway, so that's what's going on over here. Now we know why this is a very big issue in the Chacham Tzvi's life. It's not just about kosher or not, right or wrong. It's about a job. It's about who's going to be the rabbi of one of the most prestigious communities. Okay? Now, like I said, what happened was, we're going to go through the other tshuvas, because many other people got involved, as we recall. Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz, the Panami Iris, other people got involved. But there was another tshuva. After this tshuva, we have a 10-page tshuva on the same issue. So we did tshuva 74, which was the initial tshuva. We got tshuva 76, where Naftali Katz basically supports the Chacham Tzvi. But then we got a 10-page tshuva. You got a couple of hours. A 10-page tshuva again about this issue, which we're going to have to go through parts of it. Why? Because we're finally in that tshuva, we're going to get to brain death. That's where we're going to. We try to get to Tshuva 77. We haven't gotten there yet, but that's where we're trying to get to. Tshuva 77 is where it actually talks about the brain death issue, okay? So we ain't seen nothing yet. Now, but we have to have a little bit more background. We need a little bit more background. Why? Because we have to know what happened to the Chacham Tzvi's life. The Chacham Tzvi is like a gadol ador, like unbelievable. So he got thrown out of town. Eventually, he got thrown out of town. He lost his job in the street communities. He lost the job. There are different versions why he left the job, why he actually left willingly. But according to one version, it's because of this chicken story. Because of this chicken in the heart story, that Moshe Rothenberg and many others said that he was wrong and he wouldn't back down. It caused a whole commotion and he had to leave town. Okay? So Chacham Tzvi left town. Okay? Now, who took over? Moshe Rothenberg. He got the whole thing. That's it. It was no more rotation. For the next 3 years, Moshe Rothenberg took over until he eventually died at 1712, and then the Knesset Yecheskel took over for the next 40 years. We'll get to that in a minute. Fine. So where does Chacham Tzvi go? He needs a job, right? So actually, for a couple of years, he just was a Yeshivat Ohr. He says he's had it with being a rabbi. But then eventually, I guess he needed money. So he went to where? Amsterdam. No, not to smoke marijuana. He went to be the rabbi in Amsterdam. No, he went to Amsterdam, right? Great, so he's in Amsterdam. Wonderful. No, not wonderful. We're going to see soon that it was not a good situation. Why? Because we have to know there's a guy named Nehemiah Chayun, right? Who is Nehemiah Chayun? Nehemiah Chayun lived right after Shabtai Tzvi, basically, Shabtai Tzvi came to town, and he already became a Muslim. He lived 1668. Shabtai Tzvi was a couple years left in his life. And to make a very long story, a very, very long story short, he was very charismatic and very handsome, and basically, he was also a hidden Sabbatian. He was also a hidden Sabbatian, right? That's what that's who he was. He became a rabbi of a certain town, and he was running around with women because that's what Sabbatians did a lot. They believe that for some reason or other that somehow or other you got to get the clippers out. So the way you get the clippers out is by hanging around with women. Bekitzer, he was a gigolo. He was a philanderer. Fine. But he's very, very talented. He's very, very talented. And he's a good and he knows a lot. So what happens? To him? So he's printing up all these Kabbalah books. He needs the money for gambling. So whatever, he's also a gambler, amongst other things. And he manages to get a haskama on his sefer from who? None other than Naftali Katz. He manages to get a haskama on a sefer from Naftali Katz. Again, Naftali Katz was the one who was the amulet with the sheep's head, right? Now, you have to understand something. These Sabbatians, they don't say right out, I believe in Shabtai Tzvi. It was a whole cult. It was a whole secret cult that people didn't know exactly what was going on, and they never said openly we believe in Shabtai Tzvi, right? But that they were Sabbatians. It was very subtle. Everything was very subtle. They were like subtle, insinuating themselves into the congregation to get to try to teach their ideas. But if they said openly there was Shabtai Tzvi, no one would talk to them, right? So everything was very subtle. He managed to get a haskama for Naftali Katz on his book. Now, the Chacham Tzvi calls up Naftali Katz and says, "How in the world did you give haskama to this guy Nehemiah Chayun?" So Naftali Katz says, "Nehemiah Chayun? Oh, I didn't even read his book. I didn't read his book. He showed me the book, and he showed me other people's haskamas that gave to the book, and I just signed my name on it also." So Chacham Tzvi says, "What do you mean? There's a whole big flowery approbation from you, right?" So Naftali Katz says, "I never wrote that. That's a total forgery. And by the way, the book that I gave, it came out that the Nehemiah Chayun did get haskamas for a different book, a total power book. Doesn't do Shabtai, doesn't do Kabbalah. And he swindled out of a lot of rabbis haskamas for one book, but he applied it to a different book. Be it as it may, Naftali Katz made a big proclamation. The whole thing is false. The whole thing was a crime. I never gave haskama on this, and I'm retracting it. And that was the story. Fine. So who's the one who got Nehemiah Chayun in trouble? It was the Chacham Tzvi. Okay? Now, fine. Now the Chacham Tzvi is in Amsterdam. Now you have to know how Amsterdam was set up over there. There was a Portuguese community in Amsterdam which were basically a lot of the Marranos. A lot of the Jews who became Marranos was reinstated. They became openly frum again, and they had a huge community in Amsterdam. There was a smaller community of Ashkenazim in Amsterdam. The smaller community was run by the Chacham Tzvi. The bigger community was run by Reb Shlomo Elyon. Okay? That's the story. So you got a big community of the Portuguese Saudis, and then you got a small community of the Ashkenazim. The Chacham Tzvi is head of the Ashkenazi community. Reb Shlomo Elyon is the head of the, we'll talk about him in a minute. And you can imagine the tension. The Ashkenazi rabbis were actually much more learned than the rabbis of the Portuguese community, but the Portuguese community were much bigger. There were tensions. Who's the main guy? Who's running the show over here? There were tensions. Fine. Now, in 1713, finally, Chacham Tzvi gets a job in Amsterdam. Who walks into town? Nehemiah Chiyun. This same guy walks into town. That's what he was. He would go to town, and he would preach his Torah, whatever he believed, and usually got thrown out eventually. But that's what he would do. He'd go to town, and that's what he did. Now, what happens is, he comes to town, and the Chacham Tzvi goes crazy. The Chacham Tzvi says, "What are you doing here? Get out! You're a Shabtai Tzvi guy." So he runs basically to the Portuguese community to find harbor under Reb Shlomo Elyon. Right? That's going on here. So the Chacham Tzvi calls up the Portuguese community, you got to get rid of him. And the Portuguese community says, wait a minute. We'll look into it. We'll decide. We'll make a deliberate decision, reserved decision. So the Portuguese community set up a big court, and they invited the Chacham Tzvi to come down to present his side. The Chacham Tzvi was having nothing of this. He went ahead and put this guy Chiyun in Chayrim, in excommunication. Right? He didn't wait for the psak-din of the Portuguese court. Now, the Portuguese court got all upset at the Chacham Tzvi because he went ahead and put this guy Chiyun and Chayrim without their authority. So the Portuguese court, basically, which is under this guy Shlomo Elyon, who we'll talk about in a minute, basically, in spite of the Chacham Tzvi, said, they came out with a proclamation that this guy Chiyun is a big tzaddik, and they made a big party for him, right? Now, what was going on here, what the undercurrent was, who's running the community, who's running Amsterdam? Because they were upset at the Chacham Tzvi that without their collaboration, he put Chiyun in Chayrim. So in spite of the Chacham Tzvi, what did they do? They said, no, he's a good guy. Okay? Anyway, you wouldn't believe what's going on here. The fighting. So all of Europe got involved. And books are written. Pamphlets. This one against this one, that one against that one. Now, there's a backstory here. This guy, who was the rabbi of the Portuguese community, his name was Shlomo Elyon. Now, Shlomo Elyon was, at least one point, was a Talmud of a nation of Gaza. And there were rumors about him that he was a Shabtai Tzvi. There were rumors about him that he actually married a married woman. That he married a married woman because he had a prophecy. He's supposed to marry this woman. Of course, that woman cheated. Of course, that woman went ahead and married someone else eventually. So he had a bad past. But he was trying to divorce him. Maybe he did tshuva, maybe he didn't. He was trying to divorce himself from that past. But his past kept on catching up to him. But he was like saying, he was trying to basically get himself exonerated, free from that past. Now, this guy, Chiyun, knew all the details about Shlomo Elyon's past. So there's a summation, there was a guess, there's a conjecture that maybe actually Shlomo Elyon didn't like Chiyun so much, but Chiyun was holding him basically at ransom. If you don't give me credibility, I'm going to tell the whole world what you did 30, 40 years ago when you were also a Shabtai Tzvi guy running around with married women. So no one really knows exactly what is, a lot of things going on here. One is the Portuguese community is very upset at Chacham Tzvi, that they feel that he overstepped his turf, right? And he basically wouldn't give any credence to the Portuguese community, and he put the Chiyun right away in Chayrim, right? So that's already one thing against the Chacham Tzvi. It could be Ilyon himself was a Shabtai Tzvi, and even if he wasn't at this point, it could be at one point he was, and he was being held by ransom by this guy Chiyun. Beat it to make. Chiyun was accepted by the Portuguese community. Chacham Tzvi said, put him in excommunication. The whole Europe got involved. Rabbi Shlomo Ilyon went to the Saris. To make a long story short, Chacham Tzvi is thrown out of his next job, looking for a new job. He got thrown out of the community. So he got thrown out of out of the street communities, and now he's thrown out of Amsterdam, right? He's thrown out of Amsterdam. Where did he go next? London. Where did you go, right? You go to London, right? That's where he went next. He actually went to London. What? Oh, 45. Ain't doing good here today. Fine, now. So, now I'm just giving you a little bit of the background, a little bit of the background. There's a lot more plays involved in all this fighting. Fine. Now, if I was a psychologist, and I'm not, because I probably could use a psychologist, but if I was a psychologist and I was like one of these scholars who were analyzing people, let's analyze what's going on over here. We have the Chacham Tzvi, right? He has a little boy named the Yavitz, of Yaakov Emden, right? What does Rav Emden see? He sees his father being thrown out of his first job. That wasn't his first job, but his most prestigious job of the street communities because of the chicken story, right? That must have had a traumatic effect. Why was he thrown out? Chicken story. Who was one of the major agitators against the Chacham Tzvi? Rabbi Yonatan. He was only 20 years old then, but he also was very involved in the chicken story business, and he was against the Chacham Tzvi. Okay, step one. Step two. Okay, start over again. The Chacham Tzvi goes to a new job in Amsterdam. That don't last too long. Why? Because this whole Shabtai Tzvi problem. Because the Chacham Tzvi is fighting with Chiyun and Ilyon, and what is all the fights about? It's all about Shabtai Tzvi. Okay? Now, a couple of years later, maybe 20, 30 years later, there's a position open. And where's the position open? In the street communities. In 1750, there's a position open in the street communities because the Knesset Yecheskel died. Right? Who's in the running? Rabbi Yonatan and Rabbi Yaakov Emden. They're in the running. Who's going to get that job? Now, Rabbi Yaakov Emden thinks he deserves it. First of all, he thinks he's much more handsomer, and probably thinks that he's a bigger Talmid Chacham. And so Yerusha should have been him. He really should have gotten it because his father should have had the job there. His father got ran out of town. Why did his father get ran out of town? Because of the chicken story. Now, so here it is. Here, again, this is really, also, I really shouldn't be doing this. This is really, I really shouldn't do this. But I'm Rabbi Yaakov Emden. There's a prestigious job available for me, maybe, that I feel is mine rightfully. Because, hey, it belonged to my grandfather, it belonged to my father, and they got illegally ran out of town. Why were they illegally ran out of town? Because they were behind the knife set, who's now in the running for the job. Right? Who gets the job? Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz gets the job. All of a sudden, there's a little rumor that maybe Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz is also Shabtai Tzvi, maybe has some connection. What does Rabbi Yaakov Emden say? My dad lost his other job because of Shabtai Tzvi. So, if you could imagine, there's a lot of pent-up anger in Rabbi Yaakov Emden because he didn't get the position he should have gotten. The position was taken over by someone who, basically because of him, he lost the position. His father got thrown out of the position. It's someone who may be a Shabtai Tzvi guy who, because of Shabtai Tzvi, the whole history of Shabtai Tzvi, his father lost the other job. So if we were allowed to psychoanalyze someone, which we're not, especially not Gedolim, but if we were allowed, it makes a lot of sense that he had a lot of pent-up hatred towards Rabbi Yonatan Eibshitz. But I didn't say this, you didn't hear it here. But this is what, right? This is what's going on. And besides the fact, we know that Chacham Tzvi was one of his big things was that he hunted, like people hunt vampires, he hunted Sabbatians. To put it all together, he had it in his blood to be in the forefront of fighting anything that has anything connected to do with Shabtai Tzvi. Okay, fine. But finally, after all this background, we are finally ready to begin the tshuva of Ayin Zayin. Now, but we need a little background. The tshuva of Ayin Zayin, which is where we're going to talk about brain death, this is where it is. I know you guys, we're coming here.
Next week.
It really was an answer against, like we said, a lot of rabbis, Rabbi Yisrael was at the forefront, fighting about the chicken story. There was Moshe Rothenberg, because again, he had skin in the game. One of the biggest rabbis then was Rav David Oppenheim. Rav David Oppenheim, the Rav Bezin of Prague. We mentioned him before. He was the Rav Bezin of Prague. He also got swindled by Rav Nechem Chiyun. Be it as it may, Rav David Oppenheim was a very rich man. And why is he famous? First of all, he's a huge Talmid Chacham. I mean, this is his book. Nishal David is very hard for me to read because he really writes very lyrical. It's a very literary way he writes. Everything is Ramazim and Psukim and poetry. It's very hard for me to read him. But at the end of the day, he was an extremely rich man, and he wrote many, many books, and he's a big rabbi. But his thing was that he loved books. And he would actually go ahead and travel anywhere in Europe. If he heard there was a manuscript available, he would go and try to get it. I'm talking about a youth Talmid. I'm talking about like a superstar, like unbelievable. But he would go anywhere to find these books, and he was a rich man. He would do whatever he can. And until this day, and he actually collected thousands of books. And he also collected many, many manuscripts. But what he did was, he was a rich man, so basically he would copy these manuscripts. They had already a photo machine then, whatever, they had a copy machine then, and a printing machine, but he would use very good paper. So that's why his library, you go to Oxford University in Oxford, and you will find a room called the David Oppenheim Library. Why? Because, like I said, he has this huge library, very well-known rabbi, but his books and his manuscripts stayed around because he used very good paper. Now, funny thing is, his own books he never printed. And he has like 20 books. His own books he actually never printed. Only at the end of his life he printed one of his books, but he has many, many books. So it's funny that, it's like a little bit funny that he's printing many, many other old manuscripts that we have in the Oxford University, thousands of them, but his own books he actually never printed. Right? Which by the way, was in the good old days, a lot of rabbis would only they said this stuff to be printed posthumously. So here we have Rabbi Oppenheimer. Rabbi Oppenheim writes a big tshuva about the chicken and heart thing. And the Chacham Tzvi, they were friends, writes a tshuva back. And in this tshuva, this is where they discuss why does a person live? Is it the heart or the brain? What is the main source of a person's life? That's why it's going to get into the brain death. Where are we holding? So let me do one thing. One thing. No, next week we do Hanukkah. We're taking a break. Next week we do Hanukkah. So Chacham starts again against David Oppenheimer. It's beautiful stuff. I'm telling you, it's beautiful stuff. Very lumda. We're playing around over here. It's a lot of lumdis, and roives, and klias. A lot of going on over here. But he starts out. He says, "Listen." He says to David Oppenheim, because David Oppenheim was saying like, "Well, maybe you can live. Maybe there's a health. How can you have a healthy chicken without a heart?" So he said, David Oppenheim says, well, maybe it was really healthy, and now without the heart, it's just like a regular chicken. Maybe with the heart, it was a super duper chicken, and without the heart, it's just like deteriorated, but you don't see it deteriorated because now it just looks like a regular chicken. So Chacham is like, I don't know what you're taking. That's ridiculous. He says, no heart, you can't live without a heart, you can't be born without a heart, and don't tell me that it was a super chicken, and basically with the heart, it was like Rambo, and now without a heart, it's just like a regular guy. That's ridiculous. So he's like, he told it. Then he says, by the way, now he says, we all know the famous verse from the Rizal. The reason why I'm telling you this is because I heard this when I was a little kid from the Narola Rebbe, and I have a very bad memory. But for some reason or other, I always remember this verse. So again, he brings a bunch of zayers, more zayers, and more zayers. That's big. That you see in the zayers that the heart is the main thing, and that's part of the fight. Could we use Zohars to prove? Can't you use Zohars to prove? Do you read Zohars literally? Don't you read Zohars literally? That's part of the conversation. But he brings over here from the story in Melachim. What story? We know Eliyahu is about to die. whatever, he didn't die. He went up to Shemayim alive. And before he left, he went to visit all his yeshivas. He went to visit, Eliyahu was like a Rosh Yeshiva, but in his yeshivas, I doubt they learn Gemara, they probably learn more Kabbalah, how to meditate, how to get Nevuah, right? So it was the day that he was going to die. But Eliyahu didn't tell his students he was going to die. He just came to visit. To basically say goodbye without saying goodbye. So first he went to Yeshiva Beit El, right? And Elisha was escorting him. Elisha is a student of Eliyahu. And the Bnei Nevi'im of Beit El run to Elisha. And they said, do you know that your rabbi is going to die soon? Do you know that? Elisha says, yes, I know. Be quiet. Hechashu. It's going to be an important word. Then he goes to the next yeshiva in Yerichai, right? Yerichai. And the students run, and Eliyahu gives his shir klali, whatever he does over there, and then the students run out to Elisha. Do you know that your rabbi is going to die today? He's probably going to die? So Elisha says, yes, I know. So the Arizal says, what's going on over here? The students are telling Elisha, do you know that your rabbi is about to die? I mean, if the students knew that Eliyahu was about to die or leave this world, you figure that Elisha would know about it, right? Elisha was his number one student, was his sidekick, right? What's going on over here? So the Arizal explains the way Nevuah works is there's one super Navi. And all the Shefa, all the spirituality goes through that Navi. And all the little Nevi'im get through him. He's a conduit. Through him, they get their prophecy, right? So basically, let's say there are 100 Nevi'im. In the heart is the main Navi, and all the other Nevi'im get the Nevuah through him. Now, depending on what level you are, that's how close you are to the heart. So Eliyahu Navi is the heart, let's say. So the students who are getting their prophecy through Eliyahu Navi, the students are analogous to, let's say, the arms or the fingers, and the greater Nevi'im were considered the shoulders or the chest, and the greatest student was considered right next to the source, was sitting right on the heart. So Elisha is like sitting right on the heart, right on the nuclear source of Eliyahu Navi. The students who are also getting their energy from Eliyahu Navi, but they're further away. They're like the fingers or the legs. That's exactly what Rizal says. He uses the muscle of a body. So he says, when the big Navi is about to die, so what happens is the source starts to weaken. It doesn't spread so far. So those that are further away from the source are the first ones to feel that something's amiss, something's wrong. Those who are closer to the source, they don't feel anything because they're close to the source. It doesn't make a difference that the source is getting weaker. They're still being fed from the source. So the students said to Elisha, we are comparable to the fingers. We are comparable to the toes. We're further away from the heart. We are already feeling that the heart is failing, like the blood, the chi, what is it called? It's not coming to us. It's not coming to us anymore. But you, Elisha, are the biggest student. You're right next to Eliyahu Navi. Do you already feel a weakening? Do you already feel that the source of prophecy is not coming to you? And Elisha said, yes, I do. So the Rizal doesn't learn. The simple reading of the word hechashu is be quiet, don't talk about it. But Rizal says hechashu means like chish, quickly, means happening. Elisha said, I also feel already that the prophecy is weakening, so it's happening, it's imminent. The death is imminent. The simple reading of the word, if you read all the Proficient, they say hechashu means be quiet, don't talk about it. Don't talk about that. Eliyahu doesn't want to talk about it because he's going to die miraculously, he's going to go miraculously to the heavens. But the Rizal has the plain word, hechashu means it's happening imminently. Because Elisha said, I also feel it. But what is the point? Why the Chachas bring this down? Because they bring down the Rizal to see that the way he compares the heart to the source of life. That's why he brings this down. That's why he brings it down to show from the Rizal that we see the heart is the source of life, because it compares Eliyahu to the source of prophecy, the source of life to all the other Bnei Nevi'im. Oh. Rabbi Yisai. We are. It's at the point. The moment we have been waiting for, drum roll. We are at the point. we're going to talk about brain death. This is what we're waiting for. But where are we?
2 weeks. Just an hour.
So we're not going to be able to do this. We're going to do this in 2 weeks. We'll get back to this, hopefully. But we're there. We are there. Almost. We are almost basically there, and we'll... Because like I said, what are they going to do? I'll give you a little bit of what do they call it, trailer? Foreshadowing, right? Because they're going to bring this Gemara and Yuma, the David Oppenheim, and the Chacham Tzvi, from the Gemara and Yuma, what do we see? What's the main source of life? Brain of death. And it's fascinating enough, that David Oppenheim is basically saying you could live without a heart. There are going to be other rabbis who we're going to see next time that are going to Chacham Tzvi, not because you could live without a heart, but maybe the heart's somewhere else. You couldn't find. Maybe it's somewhere else. Maybe it like sort of went to the toes or something like that. There's different reasons why people are going to Chacham Tzvi. Rabbi Sai, we will talk about Hanukkah next week, I hope. Okay, call to.